There are many issues in the world, and I'm here to talk about just one. This issue is a discrimination against the LGBTQ+ community, also known as the queer community. Members of this community face discrimination from even their own families for merely existing. Sometimes, their families go as far as to disown them. The sad thing is, in some places, even the laws don't protect them. So, what is the queer community? Well, it's a community of normal people. Members of the queer community identify as something that is not cisgender, or someone who identifies as something that is not their biological gender, or heterosexual or straight. LGBTQ+ stands for lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer or sometimes questioning, and others. The plus represents other sexual identities, including pansexual and two-spirits. A few decades ago, people of this community were looked down upon just because society thought they were not normal or not natural. Well, we are normal people. We may be different, but we are certainly normal. Just because your friend is taller than you doesn't make them abnormal, right? Well, just because a girl likes girls instead of boys, romantically or sexually, does not make them abnormal either. Like any minority, the LGBTQ+ community has always fought for their rights. Let's go back in history to a few decades ago. The Stonewall Riot was the first step taken by the queer community to tell the world to stop mistreating us. On June 28, 1969, it started at the Stonewall Inn in Manhattan, United States, and lasted for 5 days. This riot was started by people from the local gay and lesbian bars, who were being treated poorly and violently by the police. The gays and lesbians were regular people, just like every one of us. Like me, like you, and they deserve to be treated fairly. But they weren't. And because of this, many of them back then hid their sexual identities, not telling others that they were a part of the queer community. Because if they did, society would try to fix them. Some people were jailed, electrocuted, and some were even hung to death, just because society didn't accept them as they were. I am demisexual panromantic and identify as a demifemale. Let me explain. Demisexual means that I only feel sexually attracted to someone when I have an emotional bond with the person. And panromantic means I can have a romantic relationship regardless of their gender identity with anyone, but not everyone, because that will be way too much people. Now, demifemale sounds similar to demisexual. Does it mean I like girls more than boys? No, it means I identify as a genderless, no gender, or non-binary, but closer to a female. And by that, I use the pronoun of she, her, they, them, it, but it can be different for other demifemale folks out there. Here's my story. When I was in grades 1 and 2, back in China, I would always hear my classmates telling about each other how bad it was to like someone of the same gender as yourself. Back then, we were all confused children and had no idea what we're talking about. And that was my first time hearing about the queer community. By the time I was in grade 6, I settled in Canada. One of my classmates is bisexual, meaning they like girls and boys. I started to think about myself and my preferences. I knew that I wasn't straight, but I knew I wasn't fully a lesbian either. Before that, I always thought that being gay or lesbian was weird, so I didn't even think that I would identify as a queer. Until I realized that I was probably weird myself, so I went, oh, so I'm bisexual. Skip to grade 7. A good friend of mine told me that they were pansexual, meaning they like everyone regardless of their gender identity, but not at the same time. And I, being quite clueless at the same time, went, oh yeah, I'm fine with other gender identities too. I'm pansexual then. And skip to a few months later, I found out that there's something out there called demisexual. So I went, oh, I'm demisexual panromantic then. And that was the bizarre story of how I came out to find myself. Now, I know that there are people out there who don't like queer people, and even my dad is homophobic, but I don't mind that. He's not treating me badly because we're here in Canada, and this isn't something out of the ordinary here to be queer. But I do know that he likes me a bit less than before I came out. But I'm proud to be me. And all of you should be proud of yourself as well. I was a confused child before I came to understand and accept myself. And I stand here now because I want you to know that it's okay to be confused. It's okay to be curious. And I encourage you to go through different phases before discovering yourself and accepting your authentic self. I stand here today because the queer community is my community. I want to tell people what it's like to be queer. And I want to spread awareness about the discrimination we face in the world. People deserve the freedom to be who they are, to choose their identity, to choose who they like, and to choose how they express themselves. If you have a gay or lesbian or transgender friend, or anyone you know in the queer spectrum, please support them. Lend them a hand or a listening ear. At least tell them that you care about them and accept them, no matter how they identify themselves. I want you to know that I care. And so should you. We're all humans after all, and we all deserve to be treated equally. Thank you.